Monday, November 4th, 2024. Administrator Bonsack, call the roll.
Ball,
Present.
Jensen,
Present.
Zerden,
Present.
Maroney,
Present.
Scott absent.
Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve or amend the agenda for tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and move on to equipment sales, certificate sales, Baker Tilly.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I am Michaela Hewitt, representing Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. On the proposed set sale, authorizing the city to issue bonds or general obligation equipment certificates for reimbursement of the acquisition of the ladder fire truck that was done in January of 2024. Within your packet is the summary of the action requested, the pre-sale summary, which outlines the terms of the proposed bond issuance, as well as the resolution that would provide for the issuance and sale of the general obligation equipment certificates, Series 2024A. Within the pre-sale summary, just a couple of highlights to point out. Again, the purpose of the issuance is to finance the reimbursement of the acquisition of a ladder truck and to pay the associated costs of issuance on the certificates. Looking at the schedule of events tonight, the council will consider setting the sale on the dates and terms of the bond financing. We're looking at a rating call with S&P on November 12th. The sale of the bonds would be on December 2nd, and they would be through a competitive bids process. That would be 10 a.m. at the council meeting that night. Council would consider awarding the certificates. As part of the rating process, the city currently has AA rating, and part of this process again with S&P would be to obtain a credit rating for this bond issue. The estimated interest rate on the bonds based on the current market is about 3.78%. And the annual debt service in the bonds is about $136,000 per year. And again, that annual debt service would be supported by the annual pledge payments from the joint powers agreement between the city, Breezy Point, Pequot Lakes, and the fire district. So the way that the debt service would be repaid would be from the revenues per that pledge agreement. So that's my brief presentation for tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Again, the requested action item is to adopt the resolution setting the sale of the bonds with the competitive bid process taking place on Monday, December 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
None for me.
No?
I do not.
Okay,
Nothing
I
for
think
me.
we're good. All right, thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to add?
I do not. The action that would be requested of you this evening would be to pass a resolution calling for the sale of the bonds.
Okay. Then with no other questions, do I have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of the bonds?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the Shoreview Lane repairs.
Good evening. So before the City Council tonight is an action item on awarding the contract to the lowest responsive bidder. Bids were opened on October 31st 4 bids were received. The low bidder is Gladen Construction with their bid of $126,984.59. This is more than what we had estimated, but the first and second low are within $800 of each other. That's telling us that's the street value of this project. So we think they're responsive bids. We're recommending award to Gladen. And they would be able to get started this fall and get most of it completed.
But do you guys have any questions on the bids?
No, I don't, but it's nice to hear they could get started yet this fall, so that would be good.
How long do they anticipate the work will take? Out of
They didn't
curiosity.
say for sure. We'd get a schedule from them. We'd schedule a pre-con after the award. And, but this is, in my estimation, probably within a couple of weeks, they'd be able to get most of that done.
Because really, at this point, I mean, it's just riprap work, removing the dirt, vegetation.
Yeah.
Is it still a 3-to-1 slope?
Yep,
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
okay.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve Gladen Construction?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now go ahead and open up to open forum. So if there's anyone that wants to come forward, please state your name and address. One more time, anybody? All right, we will go ahead and close open forum. Move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda for tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and move on to assessing sewer bills. So I will go ahead and open up a public hearing related to assessing the sewer bills, the taxes. So if there's anybody that would like to come forth to speak on this tonight, please come forward.
I might introduce it, and then we can ask for public comment
Okay.
after that. Before you is a resolution to adopt some special assessments. The special assessments that are here, there are 11 of them. One at the 8773 North Drive has been paid, so that is not part of the proceedings this evening. The reason that there are special assessments is they are unpaid sewer bills. It's a typical activity to do at the end of the year to try to collect the unpaid ones, and if they're not paid, we would try to assess them against the taxes. There have been numerous attempts to contact these people, both written and verbal, and they not responded and or refused to respond, quite frankly. So the city's only action to collect those bills would be to assess the cost against their property taxes.
I have a quick question. Are all of these homesteaded or rentals? Because I know that a lot of times too, a lot of other cities, when they have long-term rentals who are responsible for utilities, they end up doing this
I think
after the fact?
there's some of both here.
Okay,
I can't distinguish where they all are. I know one of them is a part-time, short-term rental, and possibly another one. We haven't, the last one on the list, we've don't have a lot of information about because the letters that we've sent have been returned to sender. And the attempts to contact these people have not been fruitful. So I think there's a combination of both here.
okay.
we certainly could, we'll make sure that at the time that the renewals for short-term rentals come about, we will look into the assessments and make sure that they get paid at the same time, at the same time that or before the licenses would be granted.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions on these?
No.
No.
All right, so then I will go ahead and open it up for public hearing. So if anybody would like to come and speak on this agenda item, please come forward. All right, I will ask again, if anybody would like to come and speak on this, please come forward. All right, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing for assess the sewer bills. So do I have a motion to move forward on?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with an amendment of removing 8773 North Drive.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the public hearing, or sorry, the camping on public lands. Administrator Bosak, do you want to go ahead and start that?
I can talk a little bit about it if you want me to.
Or Chief Sandell, are you, anybody?
Actually, the police chief has kind of taken a little bit of ownership of this ordinance, but the proposed ordinance has been read for the first time. There was a publication made in the newspaper that there's a public hearing going to be held on the adoption of the ordinance. We have not had any input between the time of the publication and this evening. We would stand by the ordinance as it's been printed. The public hearing is open, would be open to hear comments based on the ordinance. The ordinance basically limits or prohibits camping on any public property.
Anything to add? Yeah, good?
No,
All right.
that's good.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open it up for public hearing regarding the ordinance of the no camping on public land. So if anybody would like to come forward, now is the time to do so. Anybody? All right, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing. So do I have a motion then to adopt this ordinance as it's written?
I'll make a motion to approve the attached camping ordinance
I'll
as
second.
written.
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are moving right along. All right, so new business, we will move to the cannabis ordinance. Commissioner Botzak?
This one might take a little bit more. As my memo states, we have two ordinances in effect today about cannabis. One is a no use on public properties. That is not proposed to be changed. The other one is a moratorium that basically prohibits any licensing until after the first of the year. That moratorium is in effect till December 31st. Unfortunately, that moratorium cannot be extended. So the city has to make some rules and regulations as far as where to allow cannabis. I think statute states that we have to allow the retail cannabis at least one place in town. This ordinance follows the guidelines that the state has published. It has also been prepared by the city attorney. There are a few things that the council will need to look at in this ordinance. One is on page 62 of the ordinance, or of our packet, and it deals with buffers. And we need to choose a distance that the cannabis activity can be located, how far away the cannabis activity needs to be from a school, a daycare center, a residential treatment facility, and/or a public park and playground. Now, there's a range in the ordinance that it's 0 to 1,000, 0 to 500, and 0 to 500, and 0 to 500. When we prepared this, we didn't know what the council's feelings were going to be on those type of things, so we just left the range there. That will be something that the council needs to determine prior to the second reading of this ordinance, which we would propose to happen at the December council meeting. The other concern within that proposed ordinance is there are some, also some other uses other than retail that are described as cultivation, manufacture, hemp manufacture, wholesale, cannabis transportation, and cannabis delivery. Now, are those activities that the city or the city council wants to allow? And if they do, if they are allowed, where are they going to be allowed? In the draft, we have basically looked at any of those activities being allowed as a conditional use permit in the commercially zoned properties. Retail for sure probably fits in that category better there than any place. The question is, do we even want to allow the manufacture of hemp and cannabis manufacturing and cultivation? There are many smaller communities that are only dealing with the retail and not the other uses, and I think that's an option for the council if they so choose to do that. That said, if in fact we allow these uses as conditional uses in the commercial zones and/or any other zoning, we would also need to, at a later date, amend the zoning ordinance to include those uses and definitions in the zoning ordinance. It isn't that hard of a situation. We've done a draft. Peter's done a draft as far as what that could look like for the zoning ordinance, and he's prepared to take that to the Planning Commission at their meeting next week. Those are the items that I think that the council needs to discuss and provide some guidance to us for.
I have a question. Do we even have any commercial land big enough to fit any kind of operation? I know that we're unique in the fact that we just don't have a lot of commercial land, but do we even have?
I think there are some potential places to do that.
Oh yes, that's what I was
think the
looking at.
biggest concern is going to be the distance from a school.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's some places that could fit.
Okay.
I'm assuming that possibly from a retail standpoint, that there may be some existing businesses that would look at it as a potential. I don't believe that we've had a lot of people knocking on the doors and saying, when are you going to do this, and where can we do this, and
Right.
how can we do this? There certainly hasn't been any since I've been here. That said, I haven't heard from the staff that there was a real want to, for people to do this. But I assume that once, it opens up, that eventually there's going to be somebody knocking on the door and that's going to say, I'd like to start something, and where can I do it?
And the state requires us to have one license for retail sales.
Yes,
We do not have to have cultivation, manufacture, wholesale, et cetera.
that's correct.
Okay. And that was one of my questions. And then the other question that I was going to ask is when it comes down to the distance, you gave the ranges 0 to 1,000 for the one and 0 to 500. If we went the maximum for each one of those, does that still allow a location for this to be done? Because I remember we dealt with an adult use a long time ago that you had to make sure that there was a place that could be at. If we went the maximum distance for each of these, does that still allow a location for retail sales?
I believe so.
Okay.
You can make that comparison to the adult use thing, but that's a little bit different. The adult use thing, and again, the adult use is allowed in an urban reserve area and by a conditional use permit. But it was, I think the feeling was, if we have to allow it, we want them to be as far away from anything as possible.
Right.
Is this something that makes sense to discuss in detail at a workshop in November?
We certainly.
To provide direction for changes in this draft for the December meeting?
Sure.
And then we can vote on it then. I just think it would be nice to have a little bit more time to look at these questions. Not that, I don't think the direction you're going, Michael, is necessarily like a bad direction with the maximum or.
I'm fine with that. My question would be, you made a statement that the second reading would be in December, and we can modify, hone in on the distance for the second reading. We don't have to set that here tonight.
No, the intent was to look at those parts of to look at the ordinance in total. Is that something we want to proceed with? And that's, I think I'm reading that the council would like to proceed. The second part of it was to introduce those items that need to be defined and get you thinking about it versus I didn't expect a hard and fast answer this evening, other than no, maybe. But that said, the thought needs to be put into it, and yeah, we can massage that as we go.
Yeah, I'd like to see what other cities, surrounding cities of similar sizes have, if they have yet, and or, yeah, just kind of look it over. So I think it's a good idea to talk about it further at the
We can
workshop.
certainly get you a copy of what is happening in Nisswa and Pequot.
Okay,
Yeah, I would be, for one, would be opposed to any manufacturer, growing wholesale, that I don't think fits in this community. We have to have the one retail location, and so be it. And I would lean towards, the max on the feet, but we'll wait to see, what other communities have done too. Pequot, I could see being a little less. I mean, they have a lot more commercial storefront. And same with Nisswa, that may be a little different.
yeah, if we vote to not allow it from a manufacturer distribution standpoint, and somebody in the future buys a piece of land and comes to the city, then what would be the process?
As with any other ordinance, it should be a work in progress. If in fact there's merit to amending it, we should be amending it.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure to clarify that in case somebody in the future, wanted to do that, in the what would be that process, so.
I will say too, on a, workshop, it needs to be scheduled tonight because you're getting in, we have the special council meeting the 12th. You have Thanksgiving where a lot of people head out of town. So if the direction is going to be a workshop, in my opinion, that needs to be scheduled tonight.
Can't we do it on the 12th?
Well, we only have 2 hours, remember, and that's budget and certification of the election. Because planning and zoning has a meeting at 7, so we're not.
We could move it up,
Well, the canvassing shouldn't take very long.
yeah,
But
I think you probably will have enough time to do
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
If we can get a
I don't
little bit
think we're
more
gonna talk
information on
about
this, it
this,
shouldn't take
yeah,
very long.
I don't think
to-
we'll talk about this for a really long time.
Can we also have the chief and our law enforcement weigh in on some opinions on this on our workshop? Would you be able to attend on the 12th or have somebody?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, so that's what we'll go ahead and do then. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the community garden application and guidelines. Who takes that one? Joe?
Simple request to the park committee along with the community garden group. They came up with these rules. They came up with the application, the fees. It was approved at the last Park and Recreation meeting, and that's why it's here. I think it's a great start, because I think as we experience the garden, the rules may need to change some, but it's a great place to start, I feel, and just curious if you have any questions.
I think it looks really good.
Well, I have none.
The only comment I would have is payment, so staff isn't on the hook for continually notifying people that there's some type of clarifying statement in there. When will the payment be made? Is it a time of application?
That would be the intention.
But I think it should clearly state that. So staff, I mean, obviously is very busy at this point.
We did vote for our software. For when is that going to be the payment system? We did, I don't know.
That, I think, is going to end up being a new administrator.
Right. Well, I'm curious, when, do you remember when we were going to be,
I'm drawing a blank on it now. But I don't see
We
this any
voted-
different than like a golf cart permit. It's
That's
an
kinda how I look
over-the-counter
at it,
kind of
too.
thing.
eventually they'll
That's
be able
what
to
I
pay it online with our new software that
At this
we,
point, staff is extremely busy. They've taken on a lot of extra duties. There should just be a statement, payment is due this time, a time of application. And otherwise, it looks good.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interest in the community garden. I think it will be a big success, but, staff has a lot on their plate at this point.
When is this going to be ready for,
The garden?
well, when are we, for the spring?
The applications will be accepted, I want to say, it spelled it out in there from January to April, I believe.
Okay.
So January 1st is what we've been telling folks. That's when the applications and we still got to kind of cross the bridge on and figure out a plan on how to determine who gets what plot. But until it's constructed, I'll amend the map. Once the map's amended, we'll have a better way to, this year most likely might be sticky notes on the cardboard sheet with names and numbers, but it's a good start, and we'll keep it as simple as we can and improve on it down the road.
What happens if you get more applications than you have garden plots?
It's a good problem to have.
Have you
I
figured
think-
out a way to, who's going to get it and who's not?
It is first come, I think, is what it says on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it does say first come, first serve.
Okay.
Based on what I'm seeing, I wouldn't be surprised if it's half full.
Okay.
And then we'll see how it works. I mean, right now it's coming along quick. It's going to look like a garden in the next week or two, so people get a better feel for it. So
That's awesome. You guys have done a really good job. And kudos to our Park and Rec team as well.
Do we have numbers for how many plots yet? Or are we still kind of figuring that out?
no,
Okay.
it's off the top of my head. I want to say there's 36 10 by 18s. We had to adjust our size a little bit. We adjusted the layout minimally to make maintenance easier, and then I want to say the raised beds are A through W, so however many that is. 23, 4 by. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Gail.
So over 50 options.
All right.
I was just looking at, there's a section that says garden sizes on like under the guidelines, and I didn't know if there were supposed to be like numbers next, 'cause there's like, it says 4 17-inch high, but then the other two are blank. Yeah, right there. So I just didn't know if that was supposed to be filled in at some point, or if it was just, we didn't know yet, so we're just leaving it blank for now.
Yes, what is that probably referring to?
Okay,
Will be the number, because the 17-inch high is actually 5.
okay,
Um,
okay.
And I didn't want to get, as long as our measurements were correct and everything, and they seem to be, everything's going according to plan, we'll firm that stuff up.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you for that update. Do we need a motion to approve the application, or are we good?
Motion to approve
Okay.
the application and the rules.
I'll make a motion to approve the application and the rules.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to finance specialist wage.
This is a request by administration to increase the wages of the financial specialist on a temporary basis because of the losing the assistant and the city administrator, and me being here on a part-time basis. I've actually relied on Jeanette more than she thinks is probably necessary, but she's the only one that really has some idea of what the financial implications are at this point. And she's stepped up and has done her duty, and I think that on a temporary basis, she should be rewarded for that, stepping up and doing those extra things.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. I did have one question. When did the fiscal agent responsibilities get transferred from Pequot to Breezy for the joint powers?
August 1st.
Okay,
And that's reimbursable by the,
that was my next question. So we're,
yeah, so that is reimbursed by Pequot, or the fire district. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for stepping up. Appreciate all your work, both of you guys, everybody, all the staff.
yeah, I mean, it's very well deserved.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, move on to the canvass of election results.
Just an FYI, that we are canvassing the election results and the workshop that we're proposing to do on Tuesday,
November
November 12th, 4:30 PM.
And we don't need to do anything with that because we don't need a motion on this? right?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the canvassing of the election along with a budget workshop.
Second.
A workshop in general, we're going to change it to a workshop to include the budget and also cannabis at this time and any other topics that might be posted.
It's a special council meeting.
Yeah, special council meeting.
Special council meeting. I'll make that motion to have that special council meeting on November 12th at 4:30.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Perfect, we are moving along. Speed study, what do you got for us, Chief Sandell?
At the request of council, we placed our speed sign on Dakota Drive right at the entrance to the dump site. It was placed October 10th and the data was collected on the 28th. During that time frame, the highest recorded speed was 34 miles an hour. The average speed was 21 miles an hour. The sign is facing westbound, so it's going to pick up traffic for the 3 residences that are right there on Dakota, and then also people turning on to Sioux Drive. So the numbers that are indicated there will be obviously some residents and not just people going to dump site, but at least in that time frame, speed did not seem to be an issue in that area.
All right. Well, I think like we said before, this is really good data, especially when we have residents who are concerned with speed with regards to the brush pile. Does anybody have any questions?
None for me.
No, I do not.
I would love to see it, at least on Wilmer Street, Suffolk. I know that that has been where a lot of residents have, that I've spoken to, have said the issues have been. So I think if we could just collect that data and potentially put their mind at ease that there's not speeding.
That would be great. Unfortunately, probably not an opportunity this year.
Okay,
The reason for that is the last day we had the sign out, the batteries went dead.
okay,
Partially shorter days, cloudy, the solar panel wasn't charging well enough. We can't risk having the batteries go dead when it drops into freezing temperatures. So we would have to place it next year, but we can always put officers out there, monitoring speeds as well, so.
yeah. I think it would be good timing for the spring then. Again, I think it's just helpful for when we have residents come to us, asking for help or having issues, they're having issues with speeding, to be able to tell them this is the data that we've collected, so that, and we've seen this on Bushman, so I think it would be good to bring back for the new council to consider in the spring. You guys agree?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, staff reports. City administrator search.
Again, I'm not asking for any specific action this evening. It's just, I want to introduce the fact that you will be starting a search at sometime in the very near future for a new city administrator. I want to ask whether the city council would like to initiate that search and conduct that search by themselves, or they wish to use a professional, I call them headhunting search firm, to help you through that process to find somebody that fits your needs. That said, I've worked in this capacity in some other communities where they tried to do it internally, and I've worked in other communities where they've done it with professional folks. I would recommend that you use a professional search firm. That said, I think you get a better pool of candidates, and you have a lot of expertise in helping you weed the pool down to a manageable number, and you will get a better, I think, a better selection. That would be my recommendation. Now, I know that there's some concern that there's going to be new people on the council. That said, I think if you decide to go with a search firm, I think you can start that initial search. You could start that initial search today if you wanted to. Involve the new people in the process so that someone can come aboard as soon as possible.
I mean, I think we should be utilizing a professional search firm. One question I had is there was other firms that may be interested, two additional organizations, into what the quotes?
I think from what I've seen, it's going to range between $20,000 and $25,000 no matter who you get. That said, I think there are a couple other firms that would submit proposals. One of the things that I've seen in the proposals that I got so far was that a lot of this stuff is done virtually. And I think there's some merit to, at least initially, to do some stuff face-to-face, especially with the council, and to get a feel for what the council is looking for in the new individual. I think some of it can be done virtually, but I think there's some real merit into some face-to-face interaction in that process.
Are those two additional firms local or within?
One of them would be local, yes.
Okay. I mean, I think it's something we need to move forward with. And I think also that the new council needs to be involved in the process for finding the administrator.
So Jerry, are you suggesting that you'll reach out to these other two and then we can have proposals in front of us in December and we
Yep.
could then select and start that process in December?
Exactly.
Okay.
You also would know then who's, as of tomorrow, you'll know exactly who's could be involved in the process. And I think that would be very helpful too.
I agree with Mr. Jensen is having an outside consultant helping us find the applicants would be ideal. So I don't know if you're looking for a consensus with that tonight, so you can continue down that path and.
I just, you know, if you're going to say we want to do it internally, that I wanted to know that more than anything
Okay.
else. But I will follow down the path of talking to these other folks and getting proposals and try to get something to you by the meeting in December.
Okay.
And I would agree. I think definitely hiring. It looks like the recruitment schedule for one of them, you know, is 12 weeks. So I think that getting it started sooner than later is better, given that it is more of a longer process, and the new council will be, looks like, actively involved in that early process if we started that in December. So.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to go with that professional search firm as well. It's worked well for us in the past, and I think it's a good idea to get started now because it could take a little time. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, that's all you needed then from us. We will go ahead and move on to City Hall renovation update.
That's me.
Okay,
FYI, the footings have been poured. High-tech's been around on a daily basis. Backfilling should have been completed today. They've done some removal of some trees and stuff in the parking area to the north. They did that today. This week, there should be electricians and plumbers digging around out there and putting in the underground stuff. We would anticipate, well, based on what I've been told, we will probably be able to have a council meeting in this building in December. I think then it's going to be another 30 to 60 days after that before we can get back into this building for council action. So we will have to take some kind of, we'll have to find a temporary quarters at some time. If you got ideas, let me know. But I don't know exactly when we're going to have to vacate this. That's going to be kind of dependent on how things go out there, the weather and that type of thing.
So if we vacate, then more than likely there'll be no video recordings or audio?
I don't know the answer to that question at this point.
Okay.
Hadn't thought about that, quite frankly.
what Pelican Conservation Club, I know that was mentioned as a potential.
They approved it for the summer months.
Okay. Okay, that might be an option to look for the 30 to 60 days.
It's probably going to be 2 or 3 meetings.
Okay,
Our training room has an occupancy of 30 people, I believe, so as long as we don't have a big turnout, the training room at the police department would work.
oh, perfect. Would there be availability to at least record in any capacity? Okay, so we may not have video, but I guess at least then we would have that. Okay.
We certainly can work with some folks to see if we can make that happen on a temporary, at least a temporary
Yeah.
basis to do some of that.
Yep, I think we could too. I think we could get that done.
I'm sure our technical council member can help a little bit with that too.
Potentially.
Perfect. All right, thank you for that update. We'll go ahead and move on to the cemetery.
The entrance area, we've been long talking about thinning out the vegetation along the entrance and then around the water feature. That was accomplished a week or two ago. And then in the meantime, I've been working the memorial pavers, those are installed. I'm researching different ways to pay for them, and next cemetery meeting, we'll probably have some examples to narrow the focus on. I'll present some examples from different organizations and try and get us a pathway to what they want to use, hopefully have that up and running by spring, get through rules, applications, that sort of stuff. The columbarium's installed, the sidewalk is done. It does need to be sealed once again, so the gentleman that poured the sidewalk, he said once it dries off, it's gonna look kind of white and cruddy for a little bit, but once he'll come clean it with acid, seal it, and then it'll look very comparable to what we got. Everything went pretty smooth on that project. Any questions on cemetery stuff?
Looks great. Public Works did a great job.
And then the community garden, kind of touched on that. We probably have 6 or 7 of the 18 or 10 by roughly 18 beds done today. The dirt is, we're putting it a foot thick. We expect about 20% compaction. We're trying to achieve about 10 inches thick for wood chips. Great donations on wood chips. I don't expect us to have any problems. So far the budget is staying, some things have shifted, but it's gonna be pretty close to staying right on budget. So we should have significant changes in the next couple of weeks. Any questions on that? That's all I have.
Thanks, Joe, to you and your team.
All right, so last Sourcewell board. Commissioner Bonsack?
I think this is an FYI that there will be an opening for a city council representative on the Sourcewell board coming up after the first of the year. If you're interested, or if you have some interest in being on that board, let us know and we can certainly submit the application for you. And it does come with the requirement that the governing board endorse you. But first we'd have to find out if you're interested in being a board member for Sourcewell.
Any questions on that? All right, thank you. Agenda forecast. Looks like we have our workshop / special meeting on the 12th. And then December 2nd, what do you expect to see on the
December 4th?
2nd? Or
Second.
Is it
Is it the 2nd? Okay.
Yeah, 2nd.
December council meeting.
Yeah.
I expected we'd have the one ordinance, the cannabis thing. I expect to have a final levy. And that's what I know at this point.
All right, perfect. Does anybody else have anything before we adjourn? All right,
Nothing.
otherwise then I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.